Moving on then to organization of ideas, employs fluently linked paragraphs and seamlessly integrated discursive markers. So basically your paragraphs link via considered openings. A discursive marker is basically a point in an essay or a piece of writing, should I say, that just invites us to move on or can kind of twist where we're going. So it would be like also, however, etc. Firstly, secondly, you know, they just kind of give us a point, we know where we are, and then we can move on from that. So thus it's marked. But for our purposes here, they're going to be quite simple. Firstly, secondly, thirdly. It doesn't show much thought, it's not original enough, and it's just not sophisticated. And so we're going to look at, perhaps in the other one we'll look at other things like on the other hand, furthermore, in addition. They're just slightly more away from the stock standard firstly, secondly, thirdly. But still, firstly, secondly, thirdly, if that's what you're comfortable with, that's still a lot better than not having a discursive marker at all, just starting 4 different paragraphs and expecting them to stick together. Uses a variety of structural features, for example, different paragraph lengths, indented sections, dialogue, bullet points, and increasingly inventive way. Okay, so this is probably one of the areas that's most missed, actually, a place to actually get points, because it really stands out off the page. So basically what you're looking here is you're actually making a physical change on the page. So if you're going to indent something that's been put in, so perhaps if you were writing an article and you were going to have, you know, a list of bullet points or some summary bullet points, or you were going to put in quotations and the person that put it as kind of a highlight for your article, that's acceptable, because obviously what you're showing there is that you understand the form really well. Obviously, it has to be wielded with real extreme caution. You have to know what you're doing to do it properly. So bullet points are a very good example, and I suppose different paragraph lengths. Obviously, you know that you're going for something really hard hitting with a short one, so that's good. And obviously, the examiner wants you, as it's put there, in an increasingly inventive way. So basically, it has to look like it's a good idea that supports what it is you're doing. So yeah, we'll look at different examples of that in another video, but that's what you're really trying to think of there. That structural feature is basically the physical structure, the way it would look on the page. You're not just starting everything over by the line and just going all the way down. You know, you've got bullet points coming in, or you might have a couple of indented sections for a reason. It's not just you start all your paragraphs with an indentation and think that you're going to get marks for it. There has to be a reason that it's actually going to be indented. So it could be like, I remember, you know, I was going, so what's this one? Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. Brilliant. So say there's been 2 or 3 paragraphs in this one where it's actually just talking about whatever the decision was, and then like it's, you know, the person's gone up to their room and someone's left them a note. So you actually indent that whole paragraph where you read the note. The note just said, you know, I've got to do this, and etc, etc, etc. So say there's 3 or 4 lines there, and it's just indented to make it stand out, and then it would physically look different on the page. I think that's a relevant example. Or, you know, like if you were preparing for a trip, I think the other question, the June question, this is the January question, the June question was, you know, something about a trip. So basically, as you're going through, you know, you might put a bullet point of things that you actually wanted to remember to take. So just proving that you can actually control your writing and put information across to give it that feel of being different, because it is different. It's not you writing, obviously. In the first example you're reading, and the second one you're listing, that will make a clear differentiation in your writing. And thirdly, you present complex ideas in a coherent way. Now the emphasis there is on the coherency. Everyone has complex ideas, even if they don't. So the only problem is that they don't know how to put them properly. Sometimes they don't know how to put them properly in their own mind. Sometimes they don't know how to put them properly in speech. But in writing, it's harder still. I can only encourage you to practice doing that. Okay, so moving on to the skills section then. Okay, so the first one, uses complex grammatical structures and punctuation with success. So most of your writing will be complex sentences with well-used punctuation. The idea here for a complex, in its most basic form, the way we communicate with each other is kind of made up of something called clauses, which is basically words that make sense. So in its most basic idea, a complex sentence is one with 3 or more clauses. So I went to the shop, stop, that's 1. I went to the shop and bought some carrots is 2. I went to the shop and bought some carrots. When I got home, I realized they were off. I'm going back for a refund. That's more of a complex sentence. So most of your writing is going to be in that vein. That is not an accurate description of complex sentences, but it is sufficient for what we're trying to get across here, because the whole technical aspects of it, you just don't need to know. It's not the way that you think when you communicate for 99% of us. So that hopefully will be enough. And then with the well-used punctuation, the brackets, exclamation mark and semicolon there are slightly higher than simply using comma, full stop, question mark, but obviously your control of them has to be just as good. And I should do a tutorial video on punctuation actually. Moving on then, organizes writing using demarcation accurately. So demarcation is, you can break it down, it's to be demarked, it's to mark out, it's to make clear markings. So what makes clear markings within our work? What capital letters obviously do, with names and starts of sentences. Full stops obviously do, because they actually tell us when we're stopping one thing, starting another. Abbreviations, etc. They're all going to be in the right place and correctly used. So that's really important. Now, obviously, that links with punctuation as well. So even though I've put them in two different categories here, they are linked. Massively so. So 3, employs a variety of sentence forms to good effect, including short sentences. So you put a range of sentences relevant to the message and tone of that piece. Don't just throw short sentences in for the hell of it, which is another error than that person I've just described to you managed to do. Shows accuracy in the spelling of words from an ambitious vocabulary. So the spelling of ambitious words is accurate, and it has to be, sorry, you have to get the spelling right generally, well, 90%, and also you have to have used ambitious words in the first place and uses standard English consistently. The person in question avoids using slang. Now, if for just like 1 or 2 words you've got someone speaking to you in slang, that's okay, because say, for example, if we go back up to this question, a decision had to be made and you're actually recounting a real life experience, then someone might have spoken to you a way that actually included slang. That's fine. But in your personal voice, what you're putting across to this audience, you do not use slang, because they wouldn't accept that in a local newspaper. Remember, your piece will appear in the section of a local newspaper. It's not something up on Twitter, etc., where generally it's accepted that the brevity, slang is fine because of the brevity of what you have to get across. So yeah, bear those things in mind. Hope that's a good start on that. Remember, it's exactly the same for question 5 and question 6. If you can do all that, you're laughing. And secondly, I think I'll do a video explaining all these a little bit further so you can see examples of them. And yeah, please watch the other tutorial videos that I did last year on, especially the Argue Persuade one, because there's a lot of good stuff in there, if I do say so myself. Hope that was of use.